There's been a long run of small waves back home recently, so it's given me a lot of time to think about and practice in the small conditions we've had. Today, I thought I'd provide my guide to small wave expertise to give you an approach that will allow you to rectify some of the problems that may have found their way into your small wave surfing. Once having mastered these key points, you should feel confident in maintaining speed and flow through small waves and making the most out of your small wave sessions, riding and gliding to the best of your ability. My name is Ben Considine, and this is the Sunday Glide. Alright, so I am currently on my way to the Nationals, which I'm super excited for, up in Port Macquarie. I'll be competing in the Open Loggers and the Open Men's, which I'm super excited for. So another big road trip up from home, but yeah, we'll be stopping off around Manly tonight and then hopefully get some waves there in the morning, and then we'll shoot off up to Port Macquarie after that. Super excited for the contest, away for a week, so should be good getting some waves as well. As I just spoke about in the intro, we have had a big spell of flat waves, not really a much swell for the past 3 or 4 weeks back home, and it has allowed me to dial in my small wave game pretty nicely. But I have been thinking about, I guess, my approach to small waves, and I thought today what I would do is provide, I guess, the three key aspects that I find are really important for your small wave surfing, and things that I think you just at least need to be aware of, and hopefully you can implement into your surfing to improve your small wave surfing as well. Inevitably, small waves is really where we start surfing, and it's a lot easier in small waves for a number of reasons. Something I do notice is that small wave surfing does lend itself to inherently being a little bit more difficult with a few different aspects of surfing, specifically with respect to speed, power and space on the wave. I think these are all factors that contribute to, I guess, areas where we can come unstuck with our surfing. So today we're going to cover those areas and hopefully help you out with your surfing. The key things that I usually find people might go wrong with in smaller waves is firstly losing the wave. This is about positioning on the board, on the wave. Quite often I find people are losing the wave when the wave doesn't have as much power and speed to it. Now the second thing here is going to be losing glide and flow due to the turns not being initiated or executed properly. Again, an issue with when we don't have enough speed to execute the turns that we might be able to when we have got more speed and power going on in the wave. And then lastly, I think the thing that is more evident in your small wave surfing is our positioning on the wave, and how this can actually be a bit detrimental to our surfing if we're not right in the right spot, out too far on the shoulder, etc. So we're gonna go through all of these things today and hopefully give you a bit of an insight and a bit of a hand to help improve your surfing. Throughout this video as well today, I'll be showing some demonstrations from a sick fun surf I had yesterday. Had some really kind of small waves, but some really long nose rides, and just had a blast out there. So I'll be using those as we speak through each point today. And then at the end of this, I'll also throw together the edit of all the waves, which you should check out because it was such a fun session. Some sick little lefts coming through at the home break, and yeah, had a blast. So the first thing that we're actually going to speak about today is how we're maintaining glide and flow when we're in smaller waves. So we've got less speed and less power in the wave, and so it's really important that we make sure we can execute our surfing properly on the small waves to maintain the speed, especially when the wave's not really going to give us that natural burst of speed or that natural glide. We do need to make sure that we're in the perfect position on the board to make this happen. What I see a lot of is people hanging on the tail no matter where they are on the wave. So if you're on a tail and you're going to commit a turn, fantastic. We need to be on the tail because this is our pivot point and where we can initiate that turn from. But all other times on a small wave, I think it's extremely beneficial to come into what you might have heard called as the sweet spot, which is that place on the board where we naturally and effortlessly get a lot of that glide and a lot of that momentum. So what this typically is it's typically around about the area where you'll find the wide point of the board, or maybe just in front of that, I find. So if you've got a wide point back, it's going to be around about that middle point, and it can also be a little bit for shape boards as well. So what I'd recommend doing is making sure that if you are trying to speed your way through a section, or if you're trying to make sure you're having as much speed as possible, get into that sweet spot of the board to make sure you can maximize your trim. If you are on the tail and you're sitting on the tail for too long, we know that that tail causes drag. And if we've got a lot of drag occurring without putting the board on tilt or on its rail for turning, that's when we lose a lot of speed. So I'd recommend, again, the tail's great for your turning, but anytime you're not, if you're in a small wave and you're on a longboard especially, make sure you're transferring that weight through to the middle of the board to make sure you can effortlessly go on with that wave. Now, another really important concept here is maximizing flow over power when you're surfing in small waves. This is something that took me a long time to get used to. I wanted to make sure that I was surfing as well as possible, and to me, in the early days especially, that meant giving it everything I had. So I would try and turn really hard, even in fat little sections, even in small waves, and more often than not, I'd bog a rail, I'd come unstuck, and I just wouldn't be able to execute the turns to, I guess, the full effect, because the wave didn't have enough speed and power to allow me to project my board away from myself to make these turns realistic and to allow them to happen. What you do need to do, or what I find is a really good shift for my surfing, and hopefully a good shift for your surfing as well, is to embrace the flow and embrace the glide that we can harness on longboards, and try and just make sure that everything connects nicely together. We don't need to push anything too hard, and I think we can learn where we can push a bit harder and learn where we can't, the more that we're surfing small waves. So for example, if you're in the more critical part of the wave, which is something we're going to speak about next, we can push a little bit harder, we can put that board on rail. But if you're trying to push as hard as you possibly can, really dig that foot into the back of the tail, and you're only on a 1.5 foot wave, 1 foot wave, it's not going to work out the same so as it would for maybe if you're surfing a 3 to 5 foot wave. So we need to make sure that we understand that these waves do differ, and our approach needs to differ a little bit as well. What we can do though is lightly press on the tail, or I guess dial those turns back a little bit, and still produce some really nice, effortless, beautiful, graceful surfing. The lines that we're drawing can still be beautiful and long and deep, but just less push with them. And I think that's a really important thing to consider with your small wave surfing. Again, the more small waves you surf, if you're used to your equipment as well, you're going to dial that in. It's going to feel really comfortable over time. But I think just having that mindset and that approach can be something that's really important. And again, will hopefully allow your surfing in small waves to be more fun and progress better as well. Now, the other thing that I have spoken a little bit about today is how our positioning is really important in small waves. If you think about on a big wave, you can kind of put yourself anywhere on that wave because we've already got that natural speed and the natural power that's going to carry us through. The obvious mistakes, getting way too high, getting way too far on the shoulder, is still going to apply. But for the most part, we've got a fair bit of safety room. On small waves, the trouble is we actually have far less power. If you're thinking about a 1 foot wave, the momentum that we have and the natural speed and drive that wave is giving us is far less. And so we need to make sure that we're positioning not only on the board, as we spoke about for the first point, but on the wave. We need to make sure we're optimizing that so we can harness as much speed as possible that the small wave is going to give us, and then we're not going to risk falling off the back. As I spoke about at the start, the positioning is one of the key reasons I find people lose waves, or they might be surfing on the wave and then they'll fall off the back of it because they can't maintain or sustain the momentum and the speed of the wave. So what I wanted to chat to you about is where your natural surfing position is, and what we can do if we need to make some subtle adjustments for your small wave surfing. A lot of the time I see people very comfortable far out on the shoulder. This is natural because we're further away from the critical point of the wave, which is, I guess, where it's steepest, fastest, and we're most likely to fall or become unsteady because it is a naturally more difficult section of the wave to surf. In small waves though, if we're naturally surfing further out on the shoulder, this is where our risk of falling off the back just increases quite a lot, just because of the fact that we don't have the speed to push us along any further as we would on a bigger wave, say, 3 foot plus, 2.5 foot plus wave. On a smaller wave, what we need to be doing is making sure that we're coming back to the critical section, and I like to think about hugging that pocket of the wave. So you might use that pocket for a nose ride, and then you'll come out from and extend out from that pocket a little bit, and that's when you'll either do a correction turn back to the white water, might do a cut back, but essentially I'm dancing, or trying to at least dance around that critical part of the wave the whole time. If I extend out too far, again, I'm going to lose my speed because I don't have that momentum and drive from the wave, because it's just not fast enough. So I'm trying to always stay nice and critical. This, again, is just great practice for your surfing in general. Really difficult to stay super critical in really big waves all of the time, just because, again, it's a difficult place in the wave to surf. But I think practicing this on small waves, if you can dial this in and make sure you're as critical as possible for, let's say 80-90% of the wave, it's a really, really good thing to refine and to get good with, because this is where all of our critical maneuvers and I guess where we're going to be able to maximize all of the maneuvers, nose rides, turns, etc., where we're going to be able to maximize these things. So yeah, stay critical. If you're heading away from the critical or the pocket, which is where the wave is breaking, if you're going out too far into the shoulder, make sure you wind yourself back, and I guess just try and make this a bit of a habit and as part of your surfing, and I think that would go a long way. Okay, what we'll do now is we'll go into the edit. So again, I had super fun waves last night, and it was nice little left coming through, not too many people out. Had some pretty fun nose rides. I think just try and, if you're watching this for the sake of, I guess, seeing how my approach to the small waves is, just have a look and see how I'm positioning myself on the board, especially through the flatter sections. You'll see me come into the middle of the board more often than not. And then hopefully trying to dance around that critical section or the pocket of the wave, not veering too far off from the pocket out onto the shoulder. And then lastly, just seeing, I suppose, how I'm doing my turns when I do them. There wasn't a lot of opportunity out in this surf, and I was kind of stoked on trying to get my hang tens nice and long, so that's what I was doing the most of. But some instances where I'm doing turns, I'm definitely not throwing it too hard. What I think about there is how far am I leaning off the rail that I'm actually turning towards. Not very much, sort of flicking the board more than doing any really hard rail gouges. So yeah, take a look at those things, and let's get into the edit. hopefully you found that pretty useful for yourself, and you're able to think about these things when you're in the water now, and hopefully apply them to your own surfing as well, because I think these are the 3 key points that took me a little while to get, but slowly over time as I was able to implement into my surfing. I think my small wave approach, especially not trying to overdo things and overcook my turns and things like that, really was a great benefit for my surfing. So give it a go, see how it goes. Would love to hear how it's going as well, so make sure you let me know as well. We've got tip time coming up this Wednesday and another episode of the Sunday Glide, likely to be something on the Nationals. Whether I did well or not, we'll see. So stay tuned for that one. But yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Hope everyone's getting waves. We'll catch you soon. Pew.